So Jeremy Hunt has announced that his budget is an election winner. I can confirm that it's not. It's not an election winner. But let's look at the details. So they've announced a 2% national insurance tax cuts. That's going to cost £10 billion. I do hope we don't go back to the unfunded tax cuts of the Liz Truss days. However, at least it's a tax cut for workers, not tax cuts for the Tories' rich mates. Now, apparently this will save £900 per year for 27 million workers. Now, Jeremy Hunt also signalled that he'd like to scrap national insurance altogether. That makes me worry because, look, it sounds good on the surface, but something's got to give. Cutting taxes, especially with the state of the economy as it is today, is dangerous. And it leads me to believe that there's going to be a new wave of austerity that's going to hit us. If inflation doesn't stay down, then tax cuts are essentially meaningless. Look, I'm not really a big fan of trying to cut taxes because the real burden isn't taxes. Now, Labour have been pushing this line, which is the tax burden is at an all-time high. No, the actual burden is expendable income. I don't particularly care about a 2% tax cut if my rent is going to go up by more or my energy bills is going to skyrocket. Now, inflation has slowed down, but of course, the cost of goods isn't going to go back to what it was before, so we're still worse off. And there's no guarantee that inflation will actually stay down. Now, the OBR predicts that it will, but don't trust them. It's an organisation that was created by George Osborne. To me, they're just a pro-austerity think tank. Now, giving a small tax break is essentially putting a plaster on the issue. But what we need to do is build wealth. To do that, we need to invest in communities, invest in cities, we need strong public services. Essentially, tax cuts is to grab headlines, and the Tories are clearly desperate. I mean, they're leading into an unwinnable election. Now, they've actually copied Labour's policy, which will be to scrap non-dom tax status. When Labour announced it, it sounded pretty good. They've already watered it down. I don't even think they're going to implement it if they were to win power. I think it's a good thing if the Tories want to end tax breaks for rich people. So I'm definitely in favour of that. But this detail has jumped out at me. It's disgraceful if you ask me. And that is they have announced that capital gains taxes will be reduced from 28% to 24%. That is a terrible idea. We desperately need to tax wealth. That's actually more important than income, if you ask me. In fact, unearned income is a huge factor in inequality. Capital gains requires little to no extra work. People can literally make money from thin air. That sort of wealth needs taxing. Yet the Tories chose to give those who make unearned income a tax break. In fact, I would bet with you many wealthy individuals are far less offended by raising income taxes than increasing taxes on wealth. Wealth is something that is used to generate more wealth. Capital accumulates capital, often with no extra work involved. It's why we need a wealth tax, which has been ruled out by both Labour and the Tories. Now, you can tax rich people's incomes until you're blue in the face, but it won't make a dent on the levels of inequality we see today if you don't go after wealth. It's why economists are shouting from the rooftops about wealth taxes. There's so much wealth out there. So this announcement from the Tories just shows that they are just the party of the rich again. They may fool some people because they're ending a tax break, which is the non-dom status, and using it to cut taxes for workers. Oh, look, redistribution. But all of that is offset by giving more wealth, not income, but wealth, to the already rich. And I do wonder if the mainstream media will pick up on this. This budget, right, it completely misses the issues we're facing. It is so out of touch. They've ignored the cost of living crisis, which, if you wanted any chance of winning an election, you need to address it. This government has chosen to talk about culture wars instead. And I suppose it's hard to talk about the cost of living when the Tories have been in power for the last 14 years. But to ignore it is insane. It's almost like they want to lose. Now, the way both Labour and the Tories talk about the economy, they're acting like we're in some sort of golden age because they've narrowed the debate down to just taxes. I mean, what's Labour's plan for dealing with the cost of living crisis? They say cutting taxes, which is the same strategy as the Tories, and it won't make any meaningful impact. Instead of an absolute overhaul of our economy and the need for investment, none of them are talking about that. And we don't have an economically literate media that can talk about the economy. And the current opposition are also using falsehoods. Now, this is Darren Jones, who some have laughably called him Labour's rising star. I mean, every time I see him, he is absolutely appalling. And this is his response to the budget.
We have to deal with the books as we inherit them from the Conservatives. And they've spent all the money. They've maxed out the country's credit card. Debt is higher than it has been since the Second World War.
We have idiots everywhere. Idiots in the government, idiots in the media, and idiots in the Labour Party. There is no government credit card. That's never been the case. It is just a straight up lie. Now, our government is not like a household budget. There is no finite amount of money. that once it's gone, it's gone. There's no independence between our income and expenditure. Our expenditure is our income. We can't bring in money to the treasury without spending money. But Labour are playing into this myth for political point scoring. They desperately want to look economically competent whilst making the Tories look bad. So instead of informing people, they rather just take the easy route. And look, the media just give them a free ride. So overall, the budget just, tinkers around the edges. Small concessions for workers, which will be meaningless when the cost of living inevitably increases again. Now, they have announced that people who have taken an advance loan on universal credit now have 2 years to pay it off instead of 1. Okay, that is better than nothing. But overall, nothing addresses the current crisis. And of course, Labour, they don't have a plan for it either. So their criticisms of the budget are entirely meaningless. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and drop a comment. It's good for the algorithm and I'm interested in what you have to say. If you're not already subscribed, please do and hit the notification bell. You can also support this channel by becoming a member for 99p per month. And if you're feeling a little more generous, then you can support us on Patreon for £3 or £5 per month. This channel for a while has been uploading every single day, and it's quite a lot of work that is still voluntary and scheduled around my paid work. But I have so much ambition, expect in the future to see more variety in content, such as interviews and Vox Pops. But I want this to be a fully fledged media organisation where not only is this my full-time job, but to have multiple people working for Turn Left. I like to see a live show in the future, more content that delves into culture, history, and much more. But that can only be done if there's money. So please, if you can, support us in any way that's in your capacity. And thank you to existing members, subscribers, and patrons. See you next time.